So far, so Brexit, as they say. As usual, Brexit is, in terms of story and reporting, things really aren't going well. And so far, the government has been desperate to just say, oh, don't worry, these are just teething problems. But as we've often said from many reports in that we've done over about Brexit in the past, a lot of this stuff aren't teething problems. They are going to be there permanently. This whole bunch of paperwork that businesses now have to do is now on the companies. That paperwork is not going to go away. It is there permanently and will add, cost, time, delays, you name it. Even at the Swiss border, where they've been doing this for years, there is still like I can't remember, I think it's like a 20 to 40% rate at which paperwork fails. So even then, human error will just kick in. It's there, even at the Swiss border where this has been operating for quite some time. And then the real kicker, obviously this week, came in when the British government said that British businesses who are facing problems from this, what they should do is, remember, this is the British government saying this, is what businesses should do to avoid this entire mess that they have created is to simply pick up your business and move it to Europe. I am not kidding. The British government have actually said that. Just I really don't know where you go or what do you do with that. It's just what. But there we go. There we go. But anyway, today's story is about Joe Biden, and one thing that an expert in US affairs has said, that Joe Biden has said that he might advocate for something that the UK to do, which is not going to, shall we say, please Brexiteers very much. And even one more surprising is today we are turning to the Express, of all places. So, before we get into that, please do hit that like and share button, and of course down below there is a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link, and thank you very much for those people who do support me that way. So, on to the Express then. Oh, there we go. Wait, there we go. So this comes from the Express, of all places. So the title of the article is Joe Biden wants the UK to rejoin the EU as Boris Johnson handled Brexit trade deal blow with the US. So the US president... Oh, sorry. I have to excuse me, because places like the Express, Daily Mail, Daily Star all have absolutely awful mobile sites, and they just pop up all over the place. And then if you use an ad block, you can't read the story. So it swings and roundabouts, as they say. So anyway, into it. So the US president... Oh, okay. The US president took over the White House from his pro-Brexit rival Donald Trump on Wednesday, and Britain was finally freed from the shackles. Just the language itself. The shackles of the European Union on the 1st of January. And Boris Johnson hopes to strike a lucrative transatlantic partnership with the US. And we know they've tried to do that because this was one of the selling points of Brexit. We're going to get this fantastic trade deal with the US. It's going to be great. And again, we've already been through how many pitfalls there are in just that trade deal alone. But the changing of the guard in the US could have a detrimental impact on the chances of a trade deal being reached, as Mr. Biden has previously made his anti-Brexit view public and is set to strengthen relations with Europe. We've said this long time ago. This is not news to anyone who follows this. So, Ben Harris Quinley, a former foreign policy advisor to the UK and the EU, has said Mr. Biden will eventually want the UK to rejoin the EU 27. The chairman of the independent Bow Group think tank claimed that Mr. Biden would not give the UK a better trade deal than the US currently has with the EU, amid fears of fueling an exodus from the bloc. Speaking to theexpress.co.uk, Mr. Harris Quinley said, "We have a president who will consider the EU, not Britain, to be his closest ally, and ultimately will want Britain to rejoin the EU in the future." He said, "Biden won't agree to any deal that gives us a clear advantage over the deal with the US that has with the EU, or that makes it more likely for other nations that will want to leave the bloc in the future." No nation wants to leave the bloc now, let alone in the future. I think our Brexit mess has other, shall we say, anti-European parties have put it, have killed their own chances. You know, Denmark, for example, was often the other country that was cited as being like us, as half in, half out. Their anti-EU stance since 2016 has all but died. And in fact, you have seen approval for the EU skyrocket in other nations. So, Britain voted to leave the EU 5 months before Mr. Trump won the US election back in November of 2016. And Mr. Harris Quinley described the failure to seal an agreement during his term in office as one of the greatest foreign policy catastrophes in recent British history. So, again, this was all part of it. And again, go back to all those stories. The Brexiteers were pinning their hopes that they were going to get this sweetheart deal from Trump. Trump's gone now. That ain't going to happen. He added, President Trump was a more passionate believer in Brexit than Boris Johnson. He is also a committed Anglophile. We had 4 years to agree a deal while he was president that would have given us a competitive advantage over the EU in our biggest global trade deal, which was one of the fundamental factors for Brexit being a success in the short to medium term. That's very optimistic, that. Considering where we are now, and what happened during those 4 years, it is very, very clear that the problem was on the Brexiteers. If the Brexiteers wanted to get Brexit done, as they often so had claimed, why on earth did they not support Theresa May in getting Brexit done? It was because they didn't like her deal of Brexit, and ultimately had to sign the withdrawal agreement that was, signed by and agreed to by Theresa May, which was then sold as Boris Johnson's big Brexit deal. And then they had a year to, quote, get a deal done, which they've now been forced to sign because they don't want, it's questionable whether they do or they don't. There's arguments both for and against it. Don't worry, we've covered that. The most of the roadblocks that have stopped Brexit being done for those 4 years were down to the Brexiteers. Anyway, Mr. Biden has already outlined his vision for his first few months in office. Speaking earlier this month, the 78-year-old stated that he would not enter into any trade deals with other countries and would rather favour domestic investment. He told the New York Times, "I'm not going to enter any new trade agreement with anybody until we have made major investments here at home and in our workers and in education." Mr. Biden added, "I want to make sure we're going to fight like hell by investing in America first." The US president previously served as the second in command during the Barack Obama administration from 2009 to 2017. Prior to the EU referendum in 2016, former President Obama famously said the UK would be at the back of the queue for a US trade deal if the British people voted to leave. And during a speech at Chatham House in 2018, Mr. Biden admitted that we would have voted to stay in the EU if he was a British citizen, and claimed the US interests are diminished with the UK following Brexit. And we've talked about why that is many, many times before. They saw us as a good go-between partner and having like a man on the inside for them. And now we're not. We have no power in the EU anymore. But, these are the consequences of Brexit. He said, had I been a member of Parliament, I'd have been a British citizen. I would have voted against leaving. From the US perspective, US interests are diminished with Great Britain not being an integral part of Europe and being able to bring influence. There's growing awareness that Britain played a role in Europe in the last 30 years that went well beyond the notion of open borders and trade being able to influence attitudes, which again we have talked about multiple times. We haven't got that influence anymore now, so that will diminish us even more. And from an American perspective, there you go. Sorry, I'm just going to see if there's comments bit now. We won't bother with the comments, but yeah, you get the idea. And that from the Express there. Ultimately, yeah, we will have to rejoin the EU. What state, of course, we will rejoin it in, who knows? But that's the reality. If you want to stay in Europe, then you have to be in the EU. And unfortunately, Britain is in Europe. We are on the continent, like it or not. And the big thing, what we really need to start hearing from are businesses. And to begin with, businesses have always been very, very uptight and conservative about voicing dissent against the government. They've always played it very political neutral, unless there's something they really don't like, and then they will do it. So it's very likely that we could see, maybe not yet, but maybe like in maybe a years or two times, businesses, and especially their big heads of business groups, complaining to a point of just, hey, we were better off in the EU. And when that message starts to be said by businesses, then all of a sudden, not only will the free market fundamentalists in the Tory party lose a lot, and I mean a lot of power, the moderates and the more very business-minded, very sort of right-centrists in the Tory party will make some sort of a parliamentary political comeback in the party. And they will themselves advocate for rejoining the EU. As bizarrely as that sounds, one of the, again, calls for rejoining the EU will come from the Tory party itself. I can guarantee you. So it's just a matter of time and question of when, really. So, as always, thanks for watching, and of course, please do remember to hit that like and share button, and of course, down below there is a link to my Patreon page and a one-off donation link, and thank you very much to those people that do support me that way, and as always, we'll see you next time.